All right. So, as a lot of you know, rest days are obviously very important with what we're trying to do here, whether that's fat loss, muscle building, whatever the case may be. That all or nothing mentality of 7 days a week, full throttle is going to get you nowhere but climbing one step up the ladder and going two steps backwards. You're never going to get to where that you want to be if you don't let your body properly recover, right? And for a lot of folks, when they first, get into a new journey, whether that's their first time in the gym or they're cutting or they're bulking or whatever, and they're excited to make the change and do something different, it's tempting to believe for a lot of folks, including myself when I first started, that the more that you push your body, the faster that you'll see results. And our body is smart; it's not dumb. It knows what you're doing. Um, because after all, hard work pays off, right? Well, while consistency and effort are essential to get us to where that we need to be, just that all or nothing mentality when it comes to not taking rest days is obviously not a good idea. It's going to slow down your progress. It's going to hinder fat loss, and it even can lead to injury and quite frankly burnout. I mean, if I knew that I had to go to the gym 6 or 7 days a week, and that was like something that I had to do, I would probably resent it a lot. And it might be okay for a few months, but after that, I'd probably be pretty tired of it, if I'm being honest. Um, and I mean, so even for a lot of people, my thought process has changed on this. The more and more that I fine tune my training, which will, lead to fatigue being a little bit higher. Rest days are not something that a lot of you guys look forward to. I mean, for me personally, I don't enjoy them either, but it's something that I just had to make myself do. But they are a pretty, crucial component of any effective fitness program. I mean, if you start a program and it has no rest days involved. Like for instance, I know a lot of people love that 75 hard stuff, and I'm not bashing that in no way, but doing two workouts a day for 75 days in a row, to me, that's just asinine. It's dumb. It is. It's stupid. Um, it's going to create nothing but burnout and a resentment, by the end of it. So, um, anyway, so we'll start out with rest days and how they are going to aid in muscle growth, fat loss, things of that nature. So when you train, especially, like with resistance exercises, like in the gym, working out, or you can even go into the side of things of using, HIIT training, high intensity interval training. You're going to create tiny tears in your muscle fibers, and that has to be repaired. Has anybody ever heard that statement before? I'm sure some of you probably have. I see Jacob shaking his head yes. Well, that's false to a degree. Um, so muscle hypertrophy or growth, whatever that you want to call it, um, this is a complex physiological progress that is going to trigger or that is triggered by a resistance training. Basically, to grow muscle in any capacity, you have to work out in some way, shape, or form. Now, that doesn't mean going to a gym and doing deadlifts or doing squats, but creating some type of resistance on the muscle, which will make them go into that, adapt or die, kind of, if you want to, think of it that way, right? It will cause growth. So, like for instance, if you grew up on a farm and you constantly had to, chuck hay bales onto a moving trailer right out in the field, you're going to grow some muscle by doing that. Y'all probably seen, or heard the term, country strong, whatever. I mean, a lot of, people that work on a farm, they have decent sized muscle, if they're having to do a lot of physical labor. They're not in the gym working out, but still, there is a resistance on the muscle that's causing them to grow. Um, and so, if we get really technical, and I'm just going to be technical for just a second, so if I lose you, I apologize. But there are two main types of hypertrophy. You got, and I'm going to butcher this name, I know. It's myofibrillar hypertrophy, and then you got sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. There's two main different, or there's really one main difference in between one and the other. The myofibrillar hypertrophy, it is an increase in the number and the size of the microfibrils which are the contractile units inside of the muscle fiber. And then the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is everything else. So it's the fluid inside of the muscle, and it's the non-contractile component. So you got the myofibrillar, which is the contractile part, and then you got the sarcoplasmic, which is the non-contractile part, and the fluid, right? So those are the two types of hypertrophy. And so if you take that and we look at that micro tear misconception, that hypothesis, or whatever that you want to call it, um, that hypothesis suggests that intense exercise can cause tiny tears in the muscle fibers, which will promote the body to repair and rebuild them stronger and larger. And at the surface level, that makes sense, right? But it's a very oversimplified explanation that has been debunked here in the last couple of years, honestly. I mean, I always thought that was the process, right? I thought that for a very long time until I read an article that had come out a few years ago that kind of debunked it. Um, while resistance training, it can cause muscle damage, right? There is some damage to a degree, but this damage is not the primary driver of growth. Instead, muscle growth is largely based on three main things. You got mechanical tension, which is the force exerted on the muscles during that contraction. Then you got a metabolic stress, which is the buildups of metabolites like lactate during exercise. And then you got cellular signaling. Again, this is getting a little bit technical, but like the pathways, such as the mTOR pathway, which stimulates muscle protein synthesis, which you need to build muscle. Now, some of you who are still following me, and I haven't lost you just yet, you're probably saying, well, hang on, we're kind of splitting hairs in between tearing and damage. And I get that. You still need some form of muscle breakdown to trigger growth. That is true, yes. And the body will repair damaged structures inside of the body, but repair and growth are two, separate pathways. Um, they do both share, some mediators and some elements, but they are, I mean, pretty undoubtedly separate. So if you think of it this way, God forbid, I'm going to knock on wood somewhere. If you tear an ACL, right, like I have twice actually, your body is going to repair that, right? It's not going to go in there and say, okay, this individual has damaged this tissue. Let's build it bigger and stronger, whatever the case may be, what we want for muscle growth, right? If that was the case, there would be a huge imbalance between one knee and the other knee, right? If we're talking about, knee ACL. Um, and then as far as like muscle growth, right? Like we want that to be bigger and stronger. So like if you think of it in that sense, like it makes a little bit of sense. It's just two separate pathways, but if we're really being technical, it is splitting hairs. But so if you see somebody talking about on the internet about muscle fiber, breaking those down, in a sense, it's false. If you really want to break it down in the very simplified terms, I guess they could say that it is true. But if you look at the science behind it, it is kind of it's a myth that has been debunked. But I still see videos on Instagram today of people talking about that. So it's really not that widely known, to be honest. Um, the cool thing is, though, is research has actually shown that muscle growth, hypertrophy, whatever that you want to call it, it can occur without significant muscle damage, and damage can occur without hypertrophy, which basically in turn means muscle damage is a byproduct. It's not a prerequisite for growth. So you don't have to actually damage the muscle to get growth, if that makes sense. Um, and this is where rest days come into play. Rest days are going to allow your body to go through this recovery process, without throwing those rest days in there. Periodically, you're going to lead to a potentially overtraining, muscle fatigue, reduced performance. I mean, you could even lose a little bit of muscle mass if we're being honest. If you're really training like very, very hard, like 6, 7 days a week, then you probably are doing yourself an injustice, honestly, and you're just wasting your time. Is just what it boils down to. Um, and then, so if we look at it from a dieting standpoint, muscle tissue is going to burn or muscle tissue burns more calories at rest than fat does, right? And this fact alone is why I am a huge believer in coupling some sort of resistance training with your dieting efforts. And this will be the best driver for results over not doing anything at all in the form of working out. So, like, you can get results without, going to a gym, working out, whatever, just dieting and, getting steps in. But your physique based off of just dieting and walking alone is going to be vastly different than diet, walking, or cardio and resistance training, right? For one, it's going to boost that metabolic rate if we are doing some sort of resistance training. But coupled with that as well too, um, you have to be sure that you're recovering properly for all that to take place. Um, and then if we dive into the actual overtraining in itself, now, to be completely honest, it's very hard to overtrain yourself. I mean, I know people who go to the gym 7 days a week and they don't break a sweat. They could probably wear the same gym outfit if they wanted to. Like, they go in there, lift a little bit of weight, talk a little bit, walk on the treadmill a little bit. They're at the gym, right? But they're not training. So those people, we're not really talking about those people. If you're going there and actually getting after it, you could potentially overtrain. And then, like, the very far reaching of that is something called rhabdo, which is essentially where your body just starts breaking itself down because you're going so hard in the gym, you're and not letting your body recover enough, and it just starts breaking down. Your organs just start shutting down. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I know two people that's had it before, and I'm pretty sure that when they go pee, their pee is like black or like red, and that's like a pretty, like, oh crap, I need to go to the hospital now. Like, I don't think it's blood, but I think that's like the first, like, telltale sign that, like, hey, I've been training pretty hard here for pretty long. I know I've been overdoing, but, like, the toilet is black and red, right? Like, I probably need to go to the hospital. Again, it's not very, very common, but it is, it's something that does occur. And then again, if you don't if you are overtraining and you're not prioritizing, rest days, you're going to see chronic fatigue, a decreased performance in the gym, obviously mood swings, trouble sleeping, a weakened immune system. I mean, even from a biological level, your hormones are going to start tanking, which is your testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, the stress hormone. All that stuff is going to go crazy too. So again, you're throwing things off from a physical standpoint of not recovering, but also on a hormonal level as well too. So there's a lot that goes into this. So please incorporate those rest days. Um, and then again, if we move on to things like outside of, like, the physical side of things, we look at mental health, right? Um, a lot of times, a lot of these journeys for a lot of us are not just physical, it's mental. The biggest battle that you guys will undergo is not that 400 calories burned on the elliptical 5 days a week, right? It's this space in between your ears, right? If you can convince yourself that this is what you want to do, that you need to do, kind of thing, then you'll be a heck of a lot better off, as well as, like, going into your sessions, downgrading yourself, not in the mood. I'm not gonna say in the mood, but just having an overall positive experience while doing this, right, is definitely going to help. Um, and that goes along with, constantly pushing yourself in the gym without leading to breaks is going to lead to burnout, and making it hard to stay consistent. I actually spoke with two clients this morning who were, kind of, in that same boat, just kind of their burnout. They've been going super hard in the gym, and I just told them, like, hey, like, it's a part of it, and part of it is kind of that seasonal depression everybody goes through this time of year. It's cold outside, it gets dark early. A lot of people go through things like that during this time of year. I know that I do. Typically, it's like February. There'll be like 1 or 2 weeks in a row that I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do it at all. But I know that me just going through the motions of me going to the gym is better than me not going at all and not sticking to the diet at all. Even if I'm not making progress, I'm still idling, right? I'm still not going backwards. So, for your mental health, it's definitely a good thing to do as well too, is take breaks. Don't too much of anything is not a good thing. Taking too many Advil is not a good thing. Drinking too much water is not a good thing. So working out too much is not a good thing. And this is probably doesn't need to be said, but it reduces the risk of injury. If you're going 7 days a week, you're going to develop tendonitis, which is an overuse injury. Um, I mean, you could even go as far as like stress fractures, things like that. And an injury like that could sideline you for several weeks. So again, rest days important. Don't injure yourself by thinking that 7 days a week is what you need to do, because it's not. Um, and obviously, better sleep. This is going to go along with a little bit more of a biological progress. Chronic fatigue and elevated cortisol levels are going to interfere with your sleep cycle. And if you're constantly digging a hole every day in the gym, you're going to have that fatigue driven way up, that cortisol going way up, and again, that'll just throw your sleep off. So again, it's kind of like it's a domino effect. Once you start having those things fall, it's a downstream effect, just what it boils down to. So the biggest question, how to actually structure these rest days. Now, let's take a step back and like actually define what a rest day needs to be. So a rest day doesn't mean nothing at all. You lay on the couch all day, you don't get any steps in. Um, Really two different ways to look at this: active recovery and passive recovery. So active is going to be walking, like getting your steps in, doing yoga, stretching, anything to get moving, keep things loose, get blood flow going, things like that. And if we look at the passive recovery, um, this is like complete rest, but still, like getting walks in. So just not going to, to the gym at all, but still, getting outside, getting some fresh air, and getting your steps. Um, I'll probably do one of each during the week. There's one day during the week that I don't do anything outside of steps. I don't go to I don't go to the gym. I don't, do anything like, any kind of yoga and stretching or anything like that. But then on the other, a rest day of the week, I am doing some form of, longer type stretching, things like that, just to be sure that I'm checking those boxes as well too. And I don't go to the gym to do that. I just, do it in the living room. I just don't want to drive 20 minutes to go to the gym, stretch for 30 minutes, and then drive back home. It's kind of pointless there. Um, Outside of that, though, listen to your body. If you need a rest day, obviously take one. Now, this doesn't mean, oh, I don't feel like it today. You know, whatever excuse that you can come up with, right? Like that's not really what we're talking about. If you wake up in the morning, your feet hit the floor, and you're like, crap, my feet hurt. I'm already very fatigued. That could probably warrant taking a rest day, right? But easiest way to structure this, let's say if you got like a 5 day split, um, do not take them both back to back. I think that's not a good thing to do. Going 5 days in a row is pretty tough on your body, and days 4 and day 5 are probably not going to be as good as days 1, 2, and 3. So, like I have a 5 day split now. I typically take Wednesdays and Sundays off. It gives me 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays off, and then I do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I have another day off. Um, if you got a 4 day split, Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, do Thursday, take Friday off, do Saturday, things like that. Don't just have your rest days stacked up together. It's just going to promote, if I'm being honest, it's going to promote laziness. And it's just, I just don't like being out of the gym more than 2 or 3 days in a row. Just space those out as good as you can, just to be sure that it's not like you're falling off of a cliff, and then in 3 days you'll be back at it, right? But if you need a longer duration break, like I do sometimes, like I'll take a whole weekend off, maybe 3 days in a row, or like on vacation when I took the whole week off, that's fine. But that's not something that you should do every single week, every month kind of thing, maybe every 6 months, somewhere in there. But all that being said, take your rest days important. You grow outside of the gym when you're sleeping and you're eating your meals, and you're checking all of your boxes. If you're In that all or nothing mindset, I mean, you're digging yourself a hole, is what it boils down to. So, with that, anybody got any questions about anything that confused you guys? I know some of that at the beginning was a little bit complex, even for me, but especially with the pronunciation of it. But outside of that, anybody got any questions about anything or anything to note, comment, add about rest days or things like that?
I was going to ask about how the spacing of my rest days should be, and you kind of covered that already. So, but I can vouch that on 4 days, 4 and 5, I'm definitely more tired than 1 through 3.
Yep. And that's where just after day three, take a rest day. I know that some people like to go Monday through Friday on their work schedule, but again, going five, you can go 5 days a week if you're not training very hard. But I hope everybody here on this call is training hard enough that that they can't go 5 days a week to where they're not recovering properly, right? So yeah, for sure, especially on a 5 day split, break that up for sure. And even and I'll add on like a 4 day split or even like a 3 day split. I'll have some people do. They'll do Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, do Thursday, Friday, take Sunday off. And it just that cycle repeats every week, right? Um, so they're taking a day off. They'll do 2 days, two on, one off, two on, one off. So it's not going to be a set day every week that they're doing chest or back. Like it's going to move with the weeks, as they rotate, and that's fine, to do as well. Just as long as you're recovering, that's the main thing. So, but
Curious on, so for me, I do like a 4 day split right now. And for like basically one of my rest days, I guess, um, I do like my low intensity, like cardio, I guess, on those days. And I don't know if that's like considered still like an active recovery rest day, or if that would be considered one of those days that like wouldn't be rest, if that makes sense, I guess.
so are you doing like just walking or
So
like
typically I'll do like the elliptical for like my cardio session. I don't know if that's like
um I wouldn't say that's passive. That's probably active. Um, because you are doing something, but if you still feel like that you're recovering, the day after, you wake up feeling refreshed, then you're fine. Um, I think the biggest takeaway here that I've learned is yes, I do stick to 5 days a week training, and I pretty much am very strict with that for the most part. But if I wake up and I can't, and I know that I don't feel well enough to train, or that I'm not recovered enough, I'm going to take a rest day. But if I wake up and I'm able to train, I'm going to go train. It's not a set rigid structure of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If I wake up that Saturday morning like, man, I'm so tired, I'm going to take that rest day on Saturday and just move Saturday workout to Sunday, and just go from there. So. Anybody else got any questions or anything? Speak now, forever hold your peace. So, well, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys got any questions about anything like this, or if you need a deeper explanation about your own plan, or anything that I can recommend for you guys, feel free to message me inside Telegram, and I'll get you guys squared away. But outside of that, I appreciate you guys showing up, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See y'all.